This is my 2016 Africa Twin. I took it on the Into the Sunset ride last weekend. Big shout out to George and the whole of the ORAT team. They provided a great event, it's really well planned, and would thoroughly recommend if you can get along to one of their events.
By way of introduction, I'm Phil. I'm riding a 890 Rally KTM.
I'm Ben. I was lucky enough to be on the Quan's WR450. Should have been on Beamer 850, but it was otherwise indisposed.
Being with Quan.
I was on my Husky, trusted Husky 701.
And Rowan on the KTM 1090 Adventure R.
And I have to say the terrain was quite well selected. It was very scenic, it was beautiful. We managed to go past a lot of amazing scenic sites, lakes and hills and iconic spots. I think the terrain was quite a good mix of technical riding, fast open trails. The three days were quite different. Like day one was a challenging day, but primarily challenging because of the mud. Day two was a super fun day. I mean, it was not as slippery, there was a bit more open trails, the sand wasn't kind of too challenging. People were riding fast, high-fiving, having a great time. And just when we thought we all had it under control, then day three was like really deep sand, which we discovered quite quickly that all the technique that we developed from the previous day wasn't really that relevant in the deep sand. So there was a couple of incidents on day three as well.
If anyone would like some deep sand, I still have some in my helmet.
You and me both. Talking about the host of this tour, I was quite impressed with the infrastructure. The four-wheel drive backups were there as needed really quickly. As I said, they knew the tracks well enough to be able to change them on the fly, which is pretty impressive.
Two sweet riders.
Two sweet riders.
Well done. Good job. Thank you.
And these guys were carrying out kit, so they set up a campsite for us, they carried all that kit, they cooked food for us, they brought fuel to the campsite so we didn't have to go out for fuel.
We had a shower.
Hot shower in the middle of the desert. It was desert royalty. It was really quite special. They had the buggy there, which was so cool to watch how that thing just got through the desert, and it just added to the overall environment. And I think there were 11 riders and almost as many support crew. So we're very, very well looked after in that regard. So yeah, it was a great crew of guys and great support crew. So yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yeah, I think to go and spend the best part of 3 days with strangers, come off as enthusiasts, sharing that experience and generating that sort of camaraderie, and there's nothing quite like generating good mates when you're all in the same trouble together. I thought it was just fantastic.
Guys, thank you so much for this little opportunity to thank you. George and his crew at ORAT, we thank you for everything, for putting on this ride at Murray Sunset National Park, Into the Sunset ride. It was just fantastic. That's all I can say. The preparation that you guys did and the hard work was certainly noticed. We all saw the work you put into beforehand, creating the tracks, during, from early mornings to late nights, taking care of everybody's needs, incredible food. Just the thought put into everything was just amazing. I took along this old girl, my faithful old 990. She did wonderful. She was challenged a few times. The tracks were certainly a little bit for everyone. From beginners to the more advanced were certainly challenged.
Last weekend I headed 550 k's north of Melbourne to the Sunset Desert, which is situated south of Mildura and north of Oyen. Off-road adventure tours, hosted an event there. It was 3 days riding into the desert and then out again, and I just can't tell you how fantastic the weekend was. I've got a T7, picked it up in 2021, a Yamaha Tenere 700. Apprehensive setting off on the tour, and George, one of the hosts, said to me not to worry too much about the level of riding on that the
that the tracks that we'd follow would be progressive on each day, and I'd pick up skills on the first day and be able to employ them on the second. And it'd be tough, but I'd get through. Wow. What can I say? It was exactly as George had outlined. Look, I reckon I could have run a marathon. Certainly I had the nerves in my belly to run a marathon on the first day, and every day, actually. Met at had a general store, and I think on the whole ride, by the way, we did 12 metres of blacktop. So it was straight onto the sand, but it was fairly shallow sand, Before this event, I would have been very, very careful in terms of what I was doing off-road, and probably, it would have taken a long time to get to where I got to in terms of skills by day 3 on this event. If I'd just been doing it by myself and pushing off into the area here in southeastern Melbourne where I live, and surrounding areas you can ride. But these guys were just so supportive. There were 2 sweep riders that were literally there as soon as I needed them. The other guys on the trip were very experienced in Maine, and incredibly helpful. So much advice from during the day around the campfire. The sweeps were continually giving me a tip here and a tip there. And it did get pretty tough. It was deep sand in places, and the experienced guys were saying, this is serious. If you can ride through this, then you can pretty much ride anywhere. That's not. We had some incredibly funny moments. Certainly I did in the mud. Myself and a couple of big BMW 1250s. It was a large bike, adventure bike tour. So they were looking for sort of 500 cc's up, I think. I had the 10 700. There were, I think there were 3 KTM 890 adventure rallies. There was a 1090s, a couple of 990s. There were a couple of Husky 701s, and my God, and a Honda African Twin. And those guys, just about all of them could ride. It was just fantastic. So look, in terms of my expectations and what I was trying to achieve out of the weekend, I definitely, it definitely met my expectations. What was beyond my expectations was just how supportive the guys were from ORAT. They were absolutely prepared. The campsite was unbelievable. I was just blown away. We had hot showers. We had a marquee that we ate in. The meals were superb. The attention to details, those little things that you don't think about necessarily when you're camping. They were there when you wanted them. Had a massive campfire, which was fantastic to sit around. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was going, went to bed at 10 o'clock, and there were a few people still hanging around, having a good night. We had a sort of a visit in the middle of the Saturday night from a guy that is pretty serious Dakar or a Dakar rally participant. He kind of, it was a bit of a shock, someone coming into this campsite in the middle of a desert at 10 o'clock at night. So look, it had everything. I just can't tell you how fantastic it was. Words really can't do it justice. These guys who organised it and ran it really knew what they were doing. There was everything that I could want in terms of support, from sweep riders to, a car with a trailer, you could take a rest out, if you needed to, and just hop in the car and they'd trail the bike. Nobody really wanted to do that.